Hello, I'm Claudia Schnugg. I'm a curator and a researcher, academic scholar at the intersection of art science collaborations. And here are my 5 words, the future. So the first word I want to start with is time. I think time is an important word. On the one hand, we think we run out of time and we need to change things now, immediately. On the other hand, there is a lot of pressure when we think of having everything done now, which leads us to shortcuts, which are not so good probably, and which maybe also lead us into wrong paths or into missing important junctions. So on the other hand, we also need time, and we need time to for a deep dive and to investigate what we want to change. The second words I want to talk about is space. I think space in many dimensions is an important word that is discussed in so many different angles. So what are we doing with the space that we inhabit? What are we doing with the space that we use? And how do we exploit it? And how do we end these exploitations? When we also think about space, we think about distribution between peoples, but also distribution between urban land, inhabited land, used land, and fragile ecosystems that we want to support and protect. But space has another dimension which is becoming more and more interesting, also seen in the art world, looking at space art. So what do we do with approaching space, outer space, cosmos, other planets? There are many questions around that that are still not solved. There is a lot that we need to consider if we want to make the same errors as before. Is it again about colonialization, exploitation, or a very conservative approach to what we want to do, or something else? And what are these new possibilities actually, and how do we also understand the vastness of space? And this actually also leads to the third word, which is experience. Because, and still linked a little bit to space, there is a lot of conversation about meta space, metaverse, and physical space. And I think what is super important is to understand our experience, and that we experience with the body, with the mind, and with our senses. And this is something that we should not forget. So also we need the space we live in to experience, and to connect, and to connect either way, digitally or personally, or with our bodies, because otherwise there's this threat of disconnection, and I think this disconnection might become a strong, really strong root of a problem that we are confronted with, because we are not only a rational thinking logos or abstraction. And this leads to the next word, which is knowledge, or different forms of knowledge. So what we do is we need to engage with other forms of knowledge, which are maybe not this kind of abstraction and are not data from the past, but also different kind of experiences, because this leads to meaningful interaction, finding meaning, and sense making, which is situated in contexts, which is about being in the world, being in a social context, in a cultural context, and in a environment that we understand and we can make sense of. But this also means that these different forms of knowledge might not be the abstraction that we see in digital processes or in computer science or in pure abstractions of mathematic formulas. So I think there is this dependency, but also forms of knowledge means we have so many disciplines. This also means literacy. We need to learn to read these different kinds of knowledges, or I don't know how to express this best. So it's something that is part of education, part of also maybe a society to learn, to embrace these different ways of thinking, experiencing, knowing, and to connect to them. And this connection and this learning leads me to the last word, which is openness, which I find super important in order to be able to connect, in order to be able to have compassion, in order to have the possibility for empathy, to mindfully connect, and also to not be afraid that somebody else is better than you, but that really can work together and exchange.